Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5. Happy President's Day here on Monday, February 20th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, Tavion Thomas from Dayton Dunbar received a scholarship offer from the Buckeyes over the weekend. He is a running back, currently a 3-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite. I have a feeling that is going to rise precipitously. Tell us about Tavion Thomas and whether you think he will be a Buckeye.
Yeah, well, Tavion's already a 4-star for 24/7 Sports, so it looks like we got the head start on everyone else in seeing this young man. And I know some people are going to see him today, again, at the Best of the Midwest Combine in Indianapolis. He's a big kid, 6'2". I think he's listed at around 220 pounds. Dave, you and I were talking before the show. A lot of people have been throwing out Beanie Wells or Keith Myers or things like that. I actually said Rod Smith, kind of like a taller, longer guy who still weighs a bunch, and he's strong and he's powerful and he's fast and he can cut. And if Rod Smith took care of everything off the field at Ohio State, he would have been a pretty darn good player. And he made the Dallas Cowboys and he stuck there for a while. So that's not a terrible comparison for Tavion Thomas. But the thing here is, it's interesting. I saw, obviously, Ohio State offered. I wasn't sure if they will. I know there's some things Tavion needs to take care of as far as the NCAA clearinghouse goes. So it'll be interesting to see if this kid is someone who wants to commit tomorrow. Is that something Ohio State accepts right now and then just deals with it later on in the process? Did they have a conversation with him already saying, listen, we want you to be an Ohio State Buckeye. You have an offer, but it's contingent upon, you taking care of your grades and test scores and core credits and all the things that you need to get past the NCAA clearinghouse. And I think it's probably the latter, given Tavion walked away from his Ohio State visit. He actually told Bill Carroll at first, and as well as myself a couple minutes later, that he didn't get an offer from Ohio State. And then about 20 minutes, half hour later, or whatever it was, his coach told him, no, you have an offer. And he texted to Tony Alford and he clarified, do I have an offer? And him and Urban Meyer said, yeah, you have an offer. But so I tend to think it was, I think it's more of the latter of what I was talking about, where Ohio State pretty much said to him, listen, you need to take care of all this stuff for you to be a Buckeye, but you have an offer as long as you do that.
Interesting stuff. That's going to be fun to follow. There was growing up, Dayton Dunbar was a pretty good program, and it didn't really produce many guys for several years. So it's good to see Dayton Dunbar back producing top talent. We'll see what happens with Tavion Thomas. Very intriguing prospect, and I like that the Buckeyes are recruiting a big running back to add to Brian Snead in this class, and they're also recruiting not a huge running back, not really a scat back either, but Iverson Clement, 6 foot, 190 pounds, so he's probably going to be over 200 by the time he plays in college. He's a young man the Buckeyes are recruiting. Give us the latest on Iverson Clement.
Yeah, he's from my neck of the woods out in Jersey. He's a South Jersey guy from Rancocas Valley High School down in Mount Holly. But, he's a good player. I mean, he's a fast player. He plays hard. He's not afraid of contact. He has good vision. His ability to cut, make guys miss. I mean, you look at his film, there's really not much that you don't like about it. He doesn't play the best competition, so that's, I guess, one knock people have had on him. But he's a guy, as you said, he could play the slot if needed. He could play running back. He sees himself as a Curtis Samuel type who could do a little bit of both and help the team out in a variety of ways, which is, always valuable. But, I think the biggest thing, the biggest storyline fans need to know is this weekend he came for a visit, and, he had intentions of committing to Ohio State. That's his dream school. That's where he wants to go. You look at his Twitter header, it's Curtis Samuel as his Twitter header. This kid is not, the pinned tweet he has on his Twitter profile is his offer from Ohio State. So it's no secret this kid wants to be a Buckeye. And the staff knew that coming in, and they had a conversation. They had to discuss whether, they were ready to accept Iverson Clement's commitment this weekend. And it turned out they weren't just yet. I know he's a player that Tony Alford likes and that the staff likes a lot, but given that they have Snead, as you said, they have Jalen Gill, they potentially have Tavion Thomas if everything works out off the field. They just weren't ready to accept Iverson Clement's commitment. It has nothing to do with him as a player. They think he's a guy who can play at Ohio State. I just think right now they told him they want to just continue to build the relationship and kind of take it slower. It's almost like a guy telling a girl, this is going well. Let's just take it slow and see where it goes. I don't want to just date you, make a commitment to you just quite yet. So I think that's kind of what Ohio State gave Iverson Clement. But he's a good player who could play at Ohio State. There's no doubt in my mind. We'll see how the running back situation kind of unfolds over, the next 4 or 5 months. And maybe Iverson decides, hey, I don't want to wait for Ohio State. I'm going to go somewhere else. Or maybe he says, I'm going to wait as long as it takes. and see how things go with Ohio State over the next few months as well.
The Ohio State Buckeyes playing the field reminds me a lot of Alex Gleitman during his college days. You can't get tied down to one girl. You gotta keep your options open. So I like that analogy there. Hey, give us the latest on Brian Snead. Obviously, he's verbally committed to Ohio State, number 4 running back in the country according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 61 overall player in the land, 4-star prospect. Now, is he, in your opinion, I know they're going to have to keep recruiting him. There's no doubt about that. But is he a pretty solid commitment, or do you think that it's a little sketchy there?
Yeah, no, I think right now he's definitely solid. He told me that a couple weeks back. He's all Buckeye. He talks to Ohio State almost every single day. There's an update on the site yesterday, courtesy of Ryan Bartow, getting us some quotes from Brian Snead, just saying how he loved Ohio State. He was all about Ohio State. That's where he was going. He just feels at home with the staff. He loves everything about the school, et cetera, et cetera. So right now, there's really no concern. What will get interesting to me, and I know when he originally committed, it was early. It was at Friday Night Lights last year, so I know the staff is always cautiously optimistic, especially when an out-of-state kid, one from Florida at that, commits so early in the process. They know they have to recruit him like he's uncommitted, and I still don't think they're writing him in dry ink right there. I think it's still erasable marker or pencil or something of that nature. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see when Brian Snead, what he does if Ohio State lands Jalen Gill, if they land a Tavion Thomas, and he's one of 3 backs in the class. Is he a guy who says, I'm so good that, it's not going to matter? I think he potentially could be. I think he is really good. I think he thinks he is. And I also think he could look at, Jalen Gill and say that's a guy who's going to be a Curtis Samuel type. He's going to play the slot a little bit. He's going to play running back. He could be a straight-out wide receiver potentially. We'll see where that one goes. But I think he's a guy who could look at Tavion Thomas and say, it's me and you. So, I think as long as Ohio State communicates clearly what the plan is, they continue to recruit him hard. Brian Snead said he's going to get up for another visit to Columbus on March 3rd. I think all things are pointing to him sticking in the class, but we'll see where this one goes.
That's good news. Let's finish with some not so good news. Ohio State basketball, they lost at home on Saturday to Nebraska, 58-57. Ohio State is now the second worst team in the Big Ten, and there's some shaky teams in the Big Ten this year. Only Rutgers is worse than Ohio State. Ohio State's 15-13 overall, and they're 5-10 in Big Ten play. I just never saw this coming. I thought they'd at least be solid this year. They're nowhere near solid. Now, my question for you, it's kind of a 2-pronged question. Should Thad Matta be back next year? Will Thad Matta be back next year?
I think yes. I think he's earned that right. He's the winningest coach in program history. He's coached the most games in program history. The guy's been to 2 Final Fours, a few Elite Eights. He had a longest streak of Sweet 16s reaching the Sweet 16 or beyond in the country, just until, a couple years ago when D'Angelo Russell was on the team. They lost in the second round. I believe that's when it was snapped. Last year was the first year in a while they didn't make the tournament. They made the NIT, and they were actually pretty decent in the Big Ten. They had 11, I think they were, 11 or 12 wins in the Big Ten last year. So it's not like they were bad in the Big Ten. I know they had a favorable schedule. They weren't great. They lost some games they shouldn't have early in the year. I think this year has been a horrible year. I think everyone thought once, some of the guys who were problems last year in the locker room were gutted that things would be better. But then you had Kata Bates-Diop go down, and Jaquan Lyles been dealing with some stuff. Mark Loving, he's an extremely frustrating player to watch. So I think there's a lot going on right now. There's no sugarcoating it. This wasn't a good year. This isn't a good year. But I think for everything Thad has done for this program, I think he deserves at least one more year to try to get the ship righted, make the tournament next year, do better in the Big Ten, and have it pointing back in the right direction. When you have a great player in Caleb Blexen coming in, you have some really good in-state talent in 2018 coming in, and they're chasing a few more. And I think you need to see what he does next year. I think he should he come back? I think yes. I think will he come back? I think Gene Smith's going to see it the way I do, and I think he's going to definitely be back for at least one more year.
I agree with you. I think he will be back. I'm not sure if he should be back. I'm kind of torn on that. But I think he will be back unless he wants to step away, which I don't think he will. I think he will be back for a 14th season. Great insights, as always, from Alex Gleitman. Thank you very much, Alex. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it and hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag. Best damn band in the land.